Overwatch is a game of rules. Play high grounds, use cover, don't play Widow if you're gold, etc. At the top level, the teams who play the best are those who can consistently follow those rules and only break them to surprise their opponents. The nuance of Overwatch and why it's so difficult comes from situations where these rules become hard to follow or when characters break those rules. For example, say you're playing Winston and the other team swaps to Cassidy and Torbjorn with a Baptiste and Brigitte backline. In most cases, Winston wants to dive and fight the enemy backline, but against a composition like this, he has to pick his dives more carefully, sometimes being unable to dive anyone due to the risk of blowing up even through his bubble. Or say that you're playing Ashe and the other team is on Widowmaker. Usually, Ashe wants to sit far back and get picks on the enemy team's backline, but that suddenly becomes difficult since Widow does it better than her and beats Ashe in the 1v1 at nearly any distance. Sometimes, characters break rules just by the nature of their kit and the rest of the game is forced to adapt. Supports, for example, are generally quite safe when they're behind cover and can't see anyone on the other team. They can deal with the potential risk of flankers using sound cues and scouting from the rest of their team, but against Sombra, a hero who can turn completely invisible, they aren't nearly as safe, having to rely on pure reaction time or aid from their team to survive her flanks. Tanks usually have to focus most on controlling their position, when to walk forward, when to walk back, where to rotate, etc. This gets complicated or even thrown out the window against a Roadhog, who can pull you from 20 meters away if you show yourself for more than half a second. These two heroes in particular have something in common though. While Sombra and Roadhog break fundamental rules of the game, they sacrifice their entire kit to do so. Sombra, while good at getting to and fighting enemy supports, isn't as good at controlling lanes as a Genji or Tracer and oftentimes has to forfeit that entirely. Roadhog, while he does do a good job of punishing people for stepping out of position, doesn't have the same tools to punish the enemy team like Orisa's Fortify, Winston's Bubble, or Junker Queen's Shout. The point to be made is that Overwatch is a game of rules, and one of these rules is balance. A hero must either follow the traditional rules of the game, or sacrifice essential parts of the role they are supposed to fill in order to break them. Enter Freya, a character who by most measures would fall under the long-range DPS or hitscan role. Among this role is characters like Sojourn, Ashe, or Cassidy. These heroes tend to have a few main traits that define the strengths and weaknesses of the role as well as the nuance of where to play them. Hitscans tend to have more range than other heroes, strong tank pressure, and some way to very quickly eliminate enemy squishies. These strengths are distributed amongst the role and usually balanced out by differing mobilities, how good these heroes are at taking duels, and how easy it is to kill these heroes. Looking at these with other hitscans, we can see how they are relatively balanced within each other, a good niche for each hero. Now let's examine these same statistics in Freya. Freya has a very fast 2-shot on 250 HP targets, no damage falloff, and absurd tank pressure. Beyond this, she is extremely mobile and is very dynamic in her movement. Herein lies the problem. Observant viewers will see I didn't yet rate her survivability or duel potential. On paper, she's not much better at either of these than the likes of Ashe. She has a similar time to kill, not the most forgiving hitbox, and less overall HP than Ashe. So what's the problem? It's her mobility. Freya's mobility is dynamic. She has an omnidirectional hop that she can use several times in a duel. She can slow herself down in the air while moving any direction, and she has a jump that sends her relatively high, which she can also use for her slowdown mechanic. In combination, these things mean she can disengage super easily from anyone trying to kill her, and can actually win many more 1v1s than Ashe could because the heroes she's dueling simply can't hit her as much as she can them. This puts Freya in the top of her role in all categories. That alone may seem like it's extremely broken, and while it is powerful, this still doesn't necessarily break the Overwatch formula. On paper, a hero with these stats still wouldn't have the same almost 100% pick rate we see from Freya in pro play. Even with great tank pressure, Freya just can't do the same job as Cassidy, and even with impressive range, she just doesn't have dynamite like Ashe does. So the question remains as to why her pick rate is so obscenely high in professional play. Some of you may hop to a pretty reasonable answer. Freya can survive while maintaining an angle. If Ashe gets dove, she often has to use Coach Gun to escape and has a worse position for the next 10 seconds or so. Freya has enough mobility to escape while also maintaining a good position for the teamfight. While this is a good answer, Sojourn, especially with her double slide perk, also has this capability, and her pick rate hasn't been as dominant as Freya's currently is, besides when she's had a one-shot or equivalent, which Freya doesn't have. So what gives? What does Freya have that other hitscans don't? Let me just show you this clip from professional play, unedited and uncommentated, and see if you can figure out what it is. Did you catch it? No. Let's look from the enemy tank's point of view. Here lies the fundamental problem with Freya's design, which allows her to be played almost anywhere and completely dominate the meta. Hitscans generally have to choose between shooting out the enemy tank or shooting the enemy backline with their position. Positions best suited to forcing enemy tank typically don't have the greatest line of sight on the enemy backline, or if they do, the enemy tank can quickly and easily deny it. Due to Freya's mobility, she can quickly and easily shoot the backline past the enemy tank. This may not sound particularly novel, and if that's all I had to say, it may not be, but there's more to it. Let's give an example from trying to win this choke on King's Row's second point. If there is a tank holding the choke and a backline on Bookstore, Freya can just completely and utterly ignore the tank with her flight ability and run into the backline. No other hitscan is capable of doing this. Let's get a simple recap here of how each hitscan would be forced to approach this fight. Cassidy doesn't have the mobility to bypass the tank, so he's forced to sit here and fight. By the time he forces the enemy tank to leave, their backline might be long gone, or he may have had to run away due to being low HP. Soldier, yeah, don't play that hero. Ashe actually has a way to damage the backline from here in Dynamite, but that's all she has. She can't move any further, and I think a little boom and burn on 2 or 3 people is different from killing 1 or 2 of them outright. Sojourn is, as expected, the one who can do this closest to how Freya does, but she's still lacking an angle. Sojourn either has to use the rail to force enemy tank out, meaning she can't kill a squishy after forcing it, or she has to slide in away from the enemy tank, meaning that she's now vulnerable in the enemy team, or at the very least, has a limited angle from this high ground position. Freya does not suffer from any of these caveats. Some of my viewers are smart and will recognize that this isn't the end-all be-all. There are still 2 ways for a hitscan to potentially get into this fight, being the high ground window or the right side flank. Window allows you to see the enemy backline without having to look at the tank, but once the backline backs away from Bookstore, which they usually will when fighting a tank, a hitscan is going to struggle to extend without the enemy tank turning around and eating them alive. Know who doesn't have a problem with that? Freya. This right side angle certainly may not have any inherent advantages for Freya compared to other hitscans, but as far as a hitscan angle goes, it's not too amazing anyways due to being far too congested and punishable. And this is just one example. There's even more parts of Freya's kit that break basic rules of the game. She has multiple disconnected movement cooldowns, meaning that in this clip, Slowdive is able to start in a completely safe position far away from the teamfight to poke enemy tank, then get into the brawl while still being able to escape with his updraft. Or what about her air stall, giving her access to things no other hero in this game has, like this clip from Cabe, who, by the way, is awesome to work with, using Freya's air stall and verticality to make this part of Circuit Royale trivial, even though it's nearly impossible for hitscans usually. Or what about the fact that her vertical mobility can eliminate cover from many positions? Like here, where Seaful goes for a perfectly acceptable staging dive onto Julia and still gets bursted down anyways, because surely that's okay for a hero to do. Critical thinkers of you might say, well, Pharah can do the same thing. Her directs do almost as much damage as a Freya bolt, and she's airborne too. While there is somewhat of an argument to be made here, Freya is much harder to kill due to her hitbox and dynamic mobility, and more deadly too since her projectiles are faster. Roping back in a bit, we can see how Freya breaks some fundamental rules of the game, but more importantly, unlike Sombra and Roadhog, she doesn't have to make any sacrifices for it. Freya can eliminate cover from certain positions, reach verticalities that nobody else can, and be much less killable in the air than any other hero, but she still has really good kill potential on the enemy backline, really strong tank pressure, insane mobility, and is very hard to beat in a duel. Overwatch is a game of rules, and some characters break these rules. The best characters break these rules without making any sacrifices to their kit. Now that we know why Freya is so powerful, let's take a look at how Lip, the best hitscan of all time, plays her versus Zeta Division, a top Korean team, to see her kit in action and hopefully learn a thing or two about how we can abuse her and how we can play around her. The first fight sees Crazy Raccoons try to take this top left via brawling. This position is notoriously hard to push as 5 members due to how congested the choke is itself, alongside the fact that hitscans and flex supports have a very limited and narrow line of sight. Lip, however, being on Freya, uses her jump to bypass this entirely, giving him a skylight view of the enemy team. Since Flora is also on Freya, he opts to use his bolts to try and duel her, but it's worth noting that he also had the option to just kill this Juno if he aimed for her and hit the shots. He misses these shots, but is able to help finish the kill onto Bernard, and seeing that he has limited positions to play here, swings over to the window, yet again using his mobility, that no other hitscan has, to reach a position and line of sight, taking out Finn. While CR lost the fight, the 2 picks Lip got means that they can move the point over to the next corner. Lip uses his mobility to skip this usually dangerous rotation to the right side, and as Zeta Division runs in, he uses his fly, giving him the option to take out either Finn or Flora. He misses these shots, but as his team flips the map, he uses the opportunity to fly up to this rooftop and ride it over to Zeta Division's backline, missing most of his shots but aiding with the kill onto Flora. After some kills and ults get traded, Crazy Raccoons is rewarded a trade for their efforts. Critical viewers of mine may have noticed something odd about this thus far. Lip is missing a lot of his shots, as in he has only hit 2 of his attempted bolts on squishies thus far. Many may believe this brings into question as to how good of a player this actually is, or if this is even effective playstyle at all, especially if you aren't well attuned to professional play. This comes from a critical misunderstanding of all hitscans, not just Freya. While hitting shots is indeed important, the secret ingredient of a great long-range DPS player isn't the amount of shots they hit, it's how many opportunities they have to hit these shots, with mounting pressure and speed as they play against better opponents and the game gets harder. To be more specific, there have been 3 team-to-team interactions thus far in this game where each member was involved in a teamfight. In that time period, Lip has found 1, 2, 3, 4 opportunities where it was possible for him to get a kill that his team would not have otherwise gotten, and he managed to find kills in 2 of them. Just remember, pros are pros for a reason. Don't criticize it until you've truly analyzed it and seen how it functions. The best of the best do a lot of things that might seem completely lacking in value altogether. Alternatively, he could just open up the next fight with a kill onto Flora and poke phase and shut both of us up. He follows it up by running past Bernard and aiding a kill onto Alpha Yi, capturing the first point. Next fight begins, and Lip patiently waits for his Orisa to approach before soaring to the window and looking for a bola as well as some bolts. While he doesn't hit any of them, yet again the value is in the fact that he could have, plus the other team has to dedicate Flora to stopping him. He then looks back to the initial teamfight and obliterates the tank with the aforementioned obscene pressure before dying due to his team being down 2 members. As he respawns and Hitscan gets staggered, Lip has to back away from Zeta Division's attempt to get more kills, where he manages to find Flora pressing the advantage, landing both bolts onto him and securing an opening pick. As he pushes forward, he takes this high ground behind his opponents looking for another ultimate. Yeah, Freya builds this thing stupidly fast, BT dubs. He misses it and ends up back main with Zeta using Ray and trying to run him over. Thankfully he's on Freya so he can use this bullshit so he can tactfully and gracefully use Freya's kit with skill not beknownst to our universe to run away from a Tracer at 16 HP and survive with the help of his team. He spends most of his time here denying a walk-up from the enemy Orisa using his obscene tank damage before his team wins by pushing with ultimates. Moving to third point, he jumps this wall for a quick peek, yet another potential kill opportunity. Actually 2, now that he has the major perk, since technically if he hits all of his headshots he can kill 2 squishies. He trades frontline, goes for another cycle over the wall, back to main for his team. He finds a lot of pressure onto Bernard and even drops his ultimate onto him before getting picked off by Flora's bola. He comes back as both teams manage to reset for another 5v5, and let's look at how many chances he gives himself to get these kills. 1 potential onto Finn, another to Pelican, 1 to Flora, a second to Finn, a third to Finn, a second to Flora which he actually lands, and Crazy Raccoons cap the point. I don't want to spend too much time on this analysis. It's supposed to be a quick in and out of why Freya is so good and how the best in the world play her, but some quick takeaways. Number 1. Her tank pressure is absurd. Abuse it. Number 2. She can create so many free kill opportunities. Abuse it. Number 3. These kill opportunities are best synced with when one's team pushes. Notice how almost every instance I mentioned of Lip flying up or finding a flank was in exact sync with Max. This is not a trivial kind of coordination, it's essential to good Freya gameplay. Overwatch is a game of rules, and Freya breaks these rules, disrupting the meta and dominating pro play. By following a few simple rules of your own, you can improve your Freya gameplay and dominate your own games. Thanks for watching.